In 2005, Volkswagen announced its intention to enter the off-road pickup niche with its own product. Before that, back in the 80s, under the Volkswagen brand, a Taro pickup was sold in Europe, which was a complete copy of the 1988 Toyota Hilux. Looking at the growth of the segment of all-wheel drive light trucks with a comfortable interior and SUV handling, the German manufacturer set out to outdo competitors from Europe and Asia, making the car even more comfortable, with better handling, but at the same time in a completely classic way. In 2008, a pre-production model called the VW Robust was rolled out on the world's catwalks. It was a frame pickup truck with leaf spring rear and independent spring front suspension, with a double cab, giving an idea of what the production version of the car would look like. The official show of the Amarok itself took place on December 7, 2009 in Argentina, where its main production line was located. And in 2010, he already took part in the Dakar Rally Marathon. From the very beginning to this day, a 2.0-liter turbo diesel borrowed from the VW Transporter T5 minibus has been put on the pickup truck. Depending on the version, its power can be 140 or 163 horsepower. The engine, let's say right away, is incredibly reliable and very hardy. The only obvious downside is its small volume and poor low-end traction. If on the road it is completely unnoticeable, then off-road, but with the load. In addition, on VW minibuses with the same engine, there were cases when the particulate filter unexpectedly required cleaning. And it was on the winter road, frankly, far from civilization. In general, the motor was thrown into emergency mode and did not develop more than 2,500 RPM. And everything would be fine if the car was not loaded, and there would be asphalt under the wheels, although the ending of that story is quite successful. So, Amarok owners can breathe a sigh of relief. They did not put diesel particulate filters on their engines. However, low-end traction is still lacking. Of the problems that owners have encountered before others, it is worth mentioning the cracks in the fuel lines passing directly above the engine. They are laid with a large sag, without supports and collars. Then vibration comes into play, and if you suddenly smell diesel fuel from under the hood, there is a reason to take a closer look at the light alloy tubes hanging above the engine. Almost immediately after the problem was discovered, a service action was carried out, and on machines manufactured after 2010, this problem was no longer detected. It is treated free of charge, at the expense of the dealer. The second trouble may be the current fuel filter. It is difficult to change it without a sink and a lift. The procedure takes time, although it is inexpensive. Actually, replacing the filter at a cost of a few dollars closes the topic. A more significant problem is premature wear of the timing belt. The recommended replacement interval of 150,000 kilometers turns out to be too long. Often belts do not go even 80. The reasons are various. One of them is increased dustiness. The knot is leaky, water, dirt and dust sink into it easily and destroy the belt. Outwardly, the problem may not manifest itself at all until the cliff itself. Sometimes at idle with the hood open there is a creak. The consequences of a break depend on the specific situation. Maybe the engine will simply stall, or maybe wind it up for overhaul. Usually, valve bending and repairs with the replacement of the blockhead cost $250,000 or even more. Unfortunately, the only way out so far is to reduce the interval between replacements. Ideally, 70 to 80,000 kilometers, as indicated by the official letter. If a pickup truck often drives off-road, overcomes fords and bathes in mud, then 60,000 will not seem too suspicious. There is an upgraded timing case, which can be ordered under the number 03L109147D, but it is not a reason to relax. Another unpleasant feature is manifested on the roads. The cooling fan is splattered with dirt, may begin to vibrate and make a lot of noise. Cases of breakage or breakage of the blades have not yet been registered, and additional protection of the engine compartment can help. As for the fuel system, most of our gas stations, even in the outback, a 2-liter diesel is going through without objection. In extreme cases, at least every other time, fill a full tank of diesel fuel with detergent additives or carry a jar of a good tool for its modification. In 2015, a 3.0-liter V6 diesel was announced. See page 38 for a story about it. This would make the Amarok invincible were it not for the price. In the pickup environment, the Amarok has always stood out with its equally spacious interior and exterior. In terms of its design and equipment, the interior is close to other commercial vehicles of the company. There are at least 5 sockets of the onboard network, and there are 6 cup holders at all. Excellent ergonomics of the driver's seat and a spacious rear sofa are calling for a trip. Unless falling off and loosely fitting door seals can upset you on a long journey. On the machines of the first 2 years of production, this was a pandemic. After the seals, the biggest nuisance is the failure of the power windows. More often right, both in front and behind. Moreover, they all normally close and open from the alarm remote control, but they don't want to use the button on the door. And sometimes they only work with the buttons on the driver's door. The call may not show anything. Someone is lucky, and after one cycle of full opening and full closing of the windows, everything returns to normal. Someone has been driving like this for years with a glitch. The fuse for the washer and windshield wiper often blows. Its replacement with a bug or a more powerful fuse leads to the fact that the motor burns out. The headlights are leaky. The water that has got into them does not go away, and therefore the light bulbs burn out in winter. The fabric upholstery of the seats repels dirt well, but it itself is shaggy with cheburashka by the 3rd year of operation, healing with cauterization. In fact, it is not the wheels that creak, but the springs. Almost all Amaroks have this annoying sound after driving down a dusty country road. What's up with Amarok? Similar stories happen with almost all spring machines. The solution is simple: wash. The decision is difficult: to wash, lubricate and wrap or sew covers with something, as our grandfathers and great-grandfathers did. Under warranty, the springs, by the way, can be replaced for free. In general, the suspension is quite strong, but spring breakage also occurs. You can load 800 kilograms of concrete blocks and drive over potholes, but only once. If the warranty is valid, then they will be changed at the expense of the manufacturer's obligations. Of course, provided that they do not prove the overload. Otherwise, the spring will cost at least 15,000 rubles. There are 2 types of factory springs, 3 and 5 leaf. At the same time, the first ones are, as it were, cars, the second ones are trucks. In addition, a sea of tuning options is sold. They are most often 4 leaf. Most owners choose Ironman and OME, sometimes with a 40mm lift. It should be noted that the comfort level of an empty pickup truck with springs of the comfort, that is, 3 leaf, and heavy-duty, 5 leaf, versions is practically indistinguishable. The difference is only visible under load. But there is a difference in clearance. Comfort is 15mm lower. In general, undercarriage problems rarely occur, but, as always, it all depends on the mode of operation. You can change the hub bearings every 30,000 times, or you can leave the assembly line as a set for 200. Unless the rear shock absorbers can leak ahead of time, if, again, load and drive. Amarok, as well as other pickups, often becomes the object of off-road tuning. Power kit, light, trunk, sills and, of course, an elevator. Lift the suspension more often. However, the design features do not allow to supply a kit larger than 40mm without serious alterations. In general, wheels larger than 33-inch are extremely difficult and expensive to install. And not really necessary, to be honest. Even with the 40mm lift, CV joints do not last long, especially internal ones. First, the covers are torn, then the hinges fall under the replacement. The front wheel bearings are damaged. Wheels cling to the arches, shock absorbers die prematurely. In a word, the owner needs to think carefully about what is better, to install an elevator or limit himself to a winch and protection. There are not so many Amarok pickups on the secondary market yet. There will be no more than 70 proposals for a multi-million-dollar Moscow, and even together with the Moscow region. Prices start at $800,000 for 2010. Given that the car is reliable and comfortable, the purchase can be considered quite profitable. Especially if you make sure that the pickup has passed all service actions, the timing belt has been recently replaced, the power windows are working, and there are no traces of the transportation of the reinforced concrete bridge assembly in the back.